What if one of TV's funniest Robin Hood spoofs launched after two Mel Brooks masterpieces, yet died after just 13 episodes, only to be replaced by a bionic sensation? From Young Frankenstein's Marty Feldman directing episodes to twin brothers battling each other and a robot from Get Smart becoming the hero of Sherwood Forest, the untold story behind this cult comedy is stranger than any Merry Men adventure. Fact 1. Peak timing, fatal luck. When Things Were Rotten premiered on September 10, 1975, at what should have been the absolute perfect moment for Mel Brooks to conquer television. Just 1 year earlier in 1974, Brooks had achieved something virtually unprecedented in Hollywood by releasing not one, but two comedy masterpieces in the same calendar year. Blazing Saddles hit theaters in February of 1974, becoming a massive box office success with its Wild Western parody. And then Young Frankenstein arrived in December of that same year, earning critical acclaim and commercial success with its brilliant black and white homage to classic horror films. These back-to-back triumphs made Brooks the hottest comedy filmmaker in the industry, with studios and audiences eagerly anticipating whatever he would do next. So when he returned to television for the first time since Get Smart to create a Robin Hood parody series, expectations were sky high. The show had everything going for it: Brooks' golden touch, a talented cast of comedy veterans, high production values with lavish sets and costumes, and the backing of a major network. Yet somehow, despite all these advantages and Brooks' incredible momentum, When Things Were Rotten failed to capture the audience that had made his movies such enormous hits. The show lasted only 13 episodes before being canceled, leaving everyone puzzled about how a Mel Brooks comedy could fail so spectacularly when his films were breaking box office records. It remains one of television's great mysteries, how the man who could do no wrong in movie theaters couldn't translate that success to the small screen, even at the absolute peak of his creative powers. Fact 2. The Bionic Woman killed Robin Hood. When Things Were Rotten met its end in December of 1975 after airing just 13 episodes, but the story of what replaced it makes the cancellation even more painful for fans of the show. ABC immediately filled the time slot with a mid-season replacement called The Bionic Woman, a spin-off from The $6 Million Man, featuring Lindsay Wagner as Jamie Summers, a woman rebuilt with bionic implants after a near-fatal accident. The Bionic Woman premiered in January of 1976 and became an instant phenomenon, achieving what Mel Brooks's Robin Hood parody could not: massive ratings success and audience devotion. The show didn't just survive, it thrived, becoming one of the most successful science fiction series of this 1970s and running for 3 seasons across 2 different networks. The Bionic Woman finished its first half season as the 5th most-watched show of the entire 1975-76 television season, despite only airing from January through May, while When Things Were Rotten had struggled to find viewers during its brief fall run. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Brooks' critically acclaimed comedy was forgotten almost immediately, while The Bionic Woman became a cultural touchstone, launching toys, lunchboxes, and making Lindsay Wagner a household name. It's the ultimate television irony. A show created by one of comedy's greatest minds, featuring talented performers and high production values, was swept aside for a science fiction action series that became a genuine hit. The lesson seemed clear to network executives. Audiences in 1975 wanted bionic heroes over bumbling medieval jesters, no matter how clever the jokes might be. Fact 3. Jaime the Robot became Robin Hood Dick Gautier's casting, as Robin Hood wasn't a random audition success, but rather a deliberate reunion orchestrated by Mel Brooks based on their previous collaboration. Gautier had played Jaime the Robot on Brooks' spy comedy series Get Smart, where he became a fan-favorite recurring character known for his deadpan delivery and perfect comedic timing as an android agent who took everything literally. Brooks had watched Gautier master the art of playing a straight man surrounded by absurdity on Get Smart, and he knew that same skill would be essential for When Things Were Rotten's version of Robin Hood. Unlike traditional heroic portrayals of the legendary outlaw, this Robin Hood needed to be somewhat dim-witted, yet still likable, serving as the anchor for the chaos happening around him in Sherwood Forest. Gautier brought exactly that quality. He could deliver lines with complete sincerity while surrounded by ridiculous sight gags and anachronistic jokes, never winking at the camera or breaking the reality of the medieval setting, however absurd that reality might be. Brooks trusted Gautier's timing implicitly because they'd already developed that working relationship during Get Smart, where timing was everything for the show's rapid-fire joke delivery. Before his robot role, Gautier had also originated the part of Conrad Birdie in the original Broadway production of Bye Bye Birdie in 1960, earning a Tony Award nomination for his performance, so he brought legitimate theatrical credentials to the role along with his television comedy experience. This combination of stage presence, proven comedic chops, and an existing professional relationship with Brooks made Gautier the perfect choice to lead the Merry Men, even if audiences never quite embraced his take on the legendary hero of Sherwood Forest. Fact 4. A hee-haw honey as Maid Marian Misty Rowe brought an unusual resume to the role of Maid Marian, having spent years as one of the most recognizable faces on the country music variety show, Hee Haw, where she was known for her squeaky voice, signature lisp, and performances wearing revealing outfits including hot pants, halter tops, and country-style mini dresses that showed plenty of skin. She often appeared as Junior Sample's assistant during the show's used car comedy sketches, playing ditzy blonde characters who became her trademark on the series that aired from 1969 through the early 1990s. Rowe had joined Hee Haw in 1972 and would remain with the show for 19 years total, making her instantly recognizable to millions of viewers who tuned in every week. So when she was cast as Maid Marian in When Things Were Rotten, it represented a significant departure from her usual on-screen image. In later interviews, Rowe expressed genuine appreciation for how Mel Brooks approached costuming her character, noting that he gave her long, flowing medieval gowns that covered her completely, more clothing than any other role in her career up to that point. She found this refreshing after years of wearing increasingly skimpy outfits on Hee Haw and even appearing in a nude pictorial in the November 1976 issue of Playboy magazine, though she was not designated as Playmate of the Month. Brooks valued her comedic abilities and her natural charm, allowing her to play Marian as sweet and somewhat airheaded, but never as merely a sex object, which distinguished his approach from how she'd been used on other shows. Despite the series' brief run, the role demonstrated Rowe's range beyond the country bumpkin characters she'd become famous for playing. Fact 5. Young Frankenstein's director in the chair. Marty Feldman's involvement with When Things Were Rotten created a unique behind-the-scenes connection to Mel Brooks's recent film success, as Feldman had just finished playing the memorable hunchbacked assistant Igor in Young Frankenstein, which premiered in December of 1974. In that film, Feldman delivered some of the movie's most quotable lines and became instantly recognizable for his distinctive bulging eyes and physical comedy skills, making him one of the breakout stars of Brooks' horror parody. Less than a year after Young Frankenstein's release, Feldman stepped behind the camera to direct an episode of When Things Were Rotten titled Those Wedding Bell Blues, which aired on October 1st, 1975. The episode featured British comedian and actor Dudley Moore as the guest star, playing Sheikh Ahmed, a piano-playing oil sheikh who arrives from Arabia to sign an olive oil treaty with Prince John, but demands Maid Marian's hand in marriage as part of the deal. Having recently moved from London to Hollywood, Feldman brought his British comedy sensibilities to the episode's direction, blending them with Brooks' American slapstick style. The episode also included a scene where Robin, Marian, and the other characters find themselves on a wizard's couch discussing their psychological problems with the wizard played by Steve Landesberg, who would later become famous as the intellectual detective Harris on Barney Miller. Feldman's experience in front of the camera as a physical comedian translated well to his directorial work, as he understood how to frame sight gags and time comedic beats. This cross-pollination between Brooks's film and television projects showed how closely connected his creative circle remained during this period of his career. Fact 6. The future alias villain was Prince John Ron Rifkin's portrayal of Prince John in When Things Were Rotten came decades before he would become widely recognized for playing one of television's most compelling villains, but his early comedic work showed the range that would later make him a dramatic powerhouse. In 1975, Rifkin was a young character actor taking various television roles, and his Prince John was played as an effeminate, immature royal who served as one of the primary antagonists alongside the Sheriff of Nottingham. He brought a mincing, petulant quality to the character, portraying Prince John as more of a spoiled brat than a genuinely threatening villain, which fit perfectly with the show's approach of making everyone, heroes and villains alike, somewhat incompetent. Rifkin appeared in 9 of the show's 13 episodes, making him one of the series' regulars, despite technically being a guest cast member. Fast forward to 2001, and Rifkin began playing Arvin Sloane on the spy thriller series Alias, a role that would define his career and showcase his ability to portray cold, calculating menace. Sloane was a master manipulator working for a mysterious organization, and Rifkin played him with such nuanced ambiguity that audiences never quite knew whether to trust him or fear him. The contrast between his goofy Prince John and his chilling Arvin Sloane demonstrates remarkable versatility. The same actor who once played a lisping medieval royal for laughs later became one of television's most memorable dramatic villains. Rifkin would remain with Alias for its entire 5-season run through 2006, earning Emmy nominations for his performance. Modern viewers discovering When Things Were Rotten are often surprised to see the future Alias villain prancing around Nottingham Castle in medieval garb, delivering punchlines instead of sinister threats. Fact 7. Twin brothers on opposite sides. Richard Dimitri's dual role as identical twin brothers. Ronaldo and Bertram created one of When Things Were Rotten's most unusual running gags, as the show featured twins literally fighting on opposite sides of the Robin Hood legend. Ronaldo was one of Robin Hood's merry men, living in Sherwood Forest and participating in all the gang's schemes to rob from the rich and give to the poor, while his identical twin brother Bertram served as the sheriff of Nottingham's bumbling right-hand man, working inside Nottingham Castle and constantly trying to capture Robin and his outlaws. This setup meant that Dimitri had to film scenes playing against himself, requiring careful camera work and split-screen effects that were more technically complex than typical sitcom production. The twin dynamic allowed for numerous comedy situations where the brothers would encounter each other during Robin's various schemes, creating moments of family awkwardness in the middle of medieval battles and heists. Bertram was portrayed as somewhat scandalized by his brother's outlaw lifestyle, but clearly still loved him, while Ronaldo seemed to view their opposing allegiances as just part of the job rather than a serious family rift. The character of Bertram demonstrated only a childlike understanding of torture or killing when he threatened either, making him more of a bumbling assistant than a genuine villain, which added to the show's overall tone of incompetence on both sides. According to the TV Tropes website, Bertram rapidly turned into an anti-villain after the pilot episode, suggesting the writers found his sympathetic qualities more interesting than playing him as purely antagonistic. This twin concept was unusual enough that it became one of the most memorable elements of the short-lived series. Fact 8. Brooks demanded the twins. The origin story of Richard Dimitri's twin character roles reveals how hands-on Mel Brooks was with the show's development, even though he didn't create the initial concept. Writers John Boney and Norman Stiles had developed the treatment for When Things Were Rotten, crafting it specifically in the style of Mel Brooks' movie comedies with the hope of attracting his involvement. They sent their treatment to Paramount Television, who recognized the material's potential and forwarded it to Brooks himself for his consideration and possible input. Brooks read through the treatment and liked what he saw, agreeing to come aboard as creator and producer, but he had one specific non-negotiable demand before he would commit fully to the project. He insisted that the writers add Richard Dimitri to the cast and create a role specifically designed for him to play identical twin brothers on opposite sides of the conflict. This wasn't a suggestion or a casual idea. Brooks made it clear that Dimitri's inclusion in this dual role was essential to his vision for the show. Why Brooks felt so strongly about this particular casting choice and character concept isn't entirely clear from available sources, but it suggests he saw comedic potential in having one actor play twins working against each other that was too good to pass up. Dimitri had worked with Brooks before and would later appear in Brooks' 1977 film, The World's Greatest Lover, alongside Gene Wilder and Carol Kane, so there was already a professional relationship and trust established between them. Brooks' insistence on this element shows he was deeply involved in shaping the show's concept from the beginning, even though Boney and Stiles had created the original framework, proving that his role as creator went beyond just lending his name to the project for marketing purposes. Fact 9. Not written solely by Brooks. Despite Mel Brooks receiving prominent creator credit for When Things Were Rotten, and despite his name being the primary selling point for the series, the show's actual genesis came from two other writers who conceived the entire concept before Brooks ever got involved. John Boney and Norman Stiles were the creative minds who originally developed the treatment for a Robin Hood parody sitcom, deliberately crafting it in the comedic style of Mel Brooks's recent hit movies like Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. They wrote the initial treatment hoping that their Brooks-style approach would catch the attention of executives, or perhaps even Brooks himself, essentially creating a spec project designed to appeal to the hottest comedy filmmaker in Hollywood. Their strategy worked. Paramount Television received the treatment and recognized both its quality and its similarity to Brooks' successful film comedies, so they sent it directly to Brooks for his review and potential involvement. Brooks read what Boney and Stiles had created and saw the potential immediately, agreeing to come aboard the project as creator and executive producer, lending his name and his creative oversight to transform their treatment into an actual television series. Boney and Stiles then served as story editors throughout the show's 13-episode run, meaning they remained deeply involved in shaping individual episodes and maintaining the show's creative vision. However, to the general public and in all marketing materials, When Things Were Rotten was promoted primarily as Mel Brooks' newest creation, following up his success with Get Smart and his recent film triumphs. This billing made sense from a commercial standpoint since Brooks's name carried enormous weight in 1975, but it also meant that Boney and Stiles didn't receive the same level of public recognition for conceiving the show's fundamental concept and approach to parodying the Robin Hood legend. Fact 10. Two Love Boat stars in training. When Things Were Rotten featured two cast members who would achieve their greatest fame and career success almost immediately after the show's cancellation, proving that sometimes failure on one series can lead directly to success on another. Dick Van Patten played Friar Tuck, the big-eating member of Robin Hood's band, bringing his experienced comedic timing to the role, while Bernie Kopell portrayed Alan Adale, the minstrel of the Merry Men. Both actors were solid comedy veterans who knew how to deliver jokes and work within an ensemble cast, but neither had yet found the signature roles that would make them television mainstays. Van Patten landed the role of Tom Bradford, the father of 8 children, on the family drama 8 is Enough, which premiered in March of 1977 and ran for 5 seasons through 1981, making him a beloved figure to millions of viewers and finally giving him the leading man status he'd worked toward throughout his career. Kopell, meanwhile, secured the recurring role of Doc on the Love Boat, the ship's physician who appeared in the majority of episodes throughout the show's run from 1977 through 1986, creating one of television's most recognizable supporting characters. The timing couldn't have been better for both actors. When Things Were Rotten's cancellation freed them up to pursue these opportunities that would define their careers. It's worth noting that both actors had also worked with Mel Brooks previously on Get Smart, where Kopell had played the recurring villain Siegfried, so their involvement in When Things Were Rotten represented another chapter in their ongoing relationship with Brooks' comedy universe before they sailed off to their respective hit shows. Fact 11. Lost for nearly 40 years. When Things Were Rotten became one of television's most frustratingly unavailable cult classics, remaining virtually impossible to watch legally for decades after its brief 13-episode run ended in December of 1975. The show never entered syndication, never appeared on cable channels devoted to classic television, and never received any kind of official home video release during the entire VHS era or the early years of DVD, leaving fans with only their memories of watching the original broadcast. This scarcity only increased the show's legendary status among comedy enthusiasts and Mel Brooks fans, who traded grainy bootleg recordings and kept the show's memory alive through online discussions and fan communities. The drought finally ended in June of 2013, nearly 38 years after the show's cancellation, when Amazon began selling the complete series as a manufactured on-demand DVD through their CreateSpace service. Manufactured on demand meant the discs were created individually as customers ordered them rather than being mass-produced and distributed to stores, a relatively new technology that allowed niche content to find its audience without the financial risk of traditional DVD releases. Amazon warned buyers that while the discs would play on standard DVD players, there might be some difficulty with DVD recorders or computer drives due to the nature of the manufacturing process. For fans who had spent decades wondering if they'd misremembered how funny the show was, the release provided both vindication and a chance to introduce new audiences to this forgotten piece of Mel Brooks' creative output. The 2-disc set contained all 13 episodes, finally making the complete series accessible to anyone willing to pay for it, rather than remaining a half-remembered legend. Fact: 12 elements recycled, 18 years later. Mel Brooks clearly never forgot about When Things Were Rotten despite its failure, because when he returned to the Robin Hood legend 18 years later with his 1993 film Robin Hood Men in Tights, he recycled specific characterizations and comedic approaches that had worked in the television series. The film's portrayal of Prince John featured him as an effeminate, mincing villain, echoing Ron Rifkin's characterization from the TV show, suggesting Brooks felt that particular take on the character had been one of the successful elements worth preserving. Certain gags and joke structures also made the jump from small screen to big screen, including specific bits involving trumpets, announcing arrivals, and other medieval comedy tropes that Brooks had explored in the series. Dick Van Patten, who had played Friar Tuck in When Things Were Rotten, appeared in Men in Tights as well, though in the different role of an abbot, creating a direct connection between the two productions and perhaps serving as Brooks' way of acknowledging the earlier series. However, Brooks avoided duplicating everything from the show. He deliberately steered away from many elements that had appeared in When Things Were Rotten, suggesting he saw the film as an opportunity to revisit the Robin Hood parody concept with fresh eyes rather than simply remaking the series as a movie. The film had modest success at the box office and has maintained a cult following over the years, performing better than the television series had commercially, though it's generally considered one of Brooks' lesser films compared to his 1970s masterpieces. Still, the fact that Brooks returned to this material demonstrates he believed there was untapped potential in parodying the Robin Hood legend that the television series hadn't fully explored due to its abbreviated run. Fact 13. Critical darling ratings disaster. When Things Were Rotten presented one of television's most frustrating paradoxes. A show that critics loved, but audiences completely ignored, creating a disconnect that ultimately doomed the series despite positive reviews. Television critics in 1975 praised the show's inventiveness, its rapid-fire joke delivery, its clever sight gags, and its willingness to push boundaries with anachronistic humor that blended medieval settings with contemporary references. Reviews highlighted the strong cast, the high production values, and the unmistakable Mel Brooks comedic sensibility that permeated every episode. Critics recognized that the show was doing something genuinely creative and different from other sitcoms on the air at the time. However, none of this critical acclaim translated into actual viewership. American audiences, for reasons that remained somewhat mysterious, simply didn't tune in. The ratings were weak from the beginning and never improved significantly throughout the show's brief run, forcing ABC to make the decision to cancel after just 13 episodes, despite the positive press. One particularly memorable negative review came from critic John Leonard, who wrote that watching When Things Were Rotten was like being locked inside a package of bubblegum where the only card is Alvin Dark. a bizarre comparison that suggested the show's humor felt cheap and disappointing despite its ambitious packaging. This gap between critical reception and popular success haunted the show's legacy. It wasn't a case of a bad show being rightfully canceled, but rather a case of a genuinely good show that never found its audience for reasons nobody could quite explain, making its failure all the more painful for everyone involved in its creation. Fact 14. Starred a future Batman. Dick Gautier's career included an unusual footnote that connected him to one of television's most iconic superhero franchises, though most viewers never knew about it. In 1973, 2 years before When Things Were Rotten premiered, Gautier was asked to fill in for Adam West in a public service announcement about equal pay for women. West, who had played Batman in the campy 1960s television series, was actively trying to distance himself from the Batman role at that time and declined to participate in the PSA. Rather than canceling the project, producers recruited Gautier to wear the cape and cowl for the filming. The PSA reunited Batman's sidekicks, with Burt Ward reprising his role as Robin and Yvonne Craig, returning as Batgirl, both actors willing to revisit their characters for the important social message about workplace equality. Gautier stepped into the Batsuit and filmed the PSA alongside Ward and Craig, creating a strange alternate universe version of the dynamic duo plus Batgirl with a different actor behind Batman's mask. This casting choice made sense in a way. Gautier had already worked in Mel Brooks' superhero parody universe through Get Smart, and had demonstrated his ability to play heroic characters with a tongue-in-cheek awareness, skills that translated reasonably well to the campy Batman franchise. However, the PSA remained relatively obscure, seen by far fewer people than the original Batman series, so most viewers who later watched Gautier play Robin Hood in When Things Were Rotten had no idea he'd previously worn Batman's cape. It remains one of those peculiar pieces of television trivia that connects different superhero and comedy worlds through one versatile actor willing to put on whatever costume the role required. Fact 15. All-Star Guest Roster. Despite lasting only 13 episodes, When Things Were Rotten managed to feature an impressive lineup of guest stars that demonstrated Mel Brooks' ability to attract major comedy talent even to a struggling television series. The second episode, titled The French Disconnection, starred legendary comedian Sid Caesar as the Marquis de La Salle, a French diplomat with an eye for Maid, Marian. Caesar had been Brooks' boss and mentor during Brooks' years writing for Your Show of Shows and Caesar's Hour in the early days of television, so his appearance represented Brooks calling in a favor from the man who had launched his career. Brooks himself later said that Caesar's episode was the best one the show produced. The fourth episode featured British comedian Dudley Moore as Sheikh Ahmed, a piano-playing oil sheikh who demands Marian's hand in marriage. Other notable guests included impressionist John Biner as the mad German scientist Dr. Otto Bahn, singer-songwriter Paul Williams appearing in multiple roles, including one of the four guys from Gloucester, and Steve Landesberg playing a wizard years before he became famous as Detective Harris on Barney Miller. Comedy veteran Joe E. Ross made a cameo appearance as a cook in the episode about a plague scare, and singer Lainey Kazan also guest starred during the brief run. Some sources claim that Mel Brooks himself appeared in an uncredited cameo as a guard in the pilot episode, though this hasn't been definitively confirmed. The show also featured capable character actors like Carl Ballantine and other performers who understood comedy timing. This guest roster demonstrated that even as the show struggled in the ratings, Brooks could still attract talented performers who wanted to be part of his projects.